Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Speaking Legally, where the legal meets the cultural, with our two legal experts, Royce Russell Esquire and Edward Pichardo Esquire. We hope that as June kicks off, that you are staying safe and well. We know this COVID pandemic has not totally gone away, so govern yourself accordingly as everyone is starting their summer activities. And congratulations to all of the graduates who are enjoying their next level of their academic endeavors. So, from kindergarten all the way to postgraduate studies, congratulations, you did it. We wish you well. And of course, everyone celebrating birthdays in this month, happy birthday to you. So, thank you for allowing us to take a station break last week, but we're back, and I'll let my co hosts share their greetings with you before we jumped into another packed show.
Well, as they say, welcome back. What is that? Welcome back.
Welcome back, Carter.
Yeah,
Oh,
a
boy,
lot of
here we
folks,
go.
a lot of folks that's on this wave is listening to us. They know welcome back, Carter. They know what it's like. Shoot, they went to public school. They don't have to be in Chicago or wherever it was. They know exactly what the deal is. But welcome back, everybody. Thank you for having us in your homes, on your cell phones, on your social media devices, your iPads, your Surfaces, all that other good stuff, your computers. Those who got the old drives, whatever floats the boat, the laptops. We're here, we're in your home, we're in your face, we'll set the pace. We're trying to uplift the race. Anything else we got with the A's
Boy,
on
now
there?
we're rapping. I think we're good. I think they felt you're welcome, Mr. Russell.
Well, you got to feel it more than one way. All right. So we're back. We're here to take the culture and the legal and mix it up, and hopefully give you information that you could take on and spread on to others, and make sure that you're more informed than the guy who's standing on the corner talking about it.
Hello.
Absolutely. Buenas tardes o buenos tardes.
Sí, buenas tardes a nuestro graduado. Sí. In Spanish, we got this phrase. It's called pa'lante, which means forward. So we got these graduates moving forward in a positive direction in life. So God bless you all. And safe travels in your journeys through life. This is an important chapter for all of you, whether it be you graduating from junior high school, or college, whatever it is. I congratulate you on it. I believe today's show, you will find the content fulfilling as well as enlightening. So stay tuned. Hold on to your seats. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this show.
Can I give one more congratulations out there, since we're talking about the graduates leaving and going on to bigger and better things? Congratulations to the parents, especially those that are parents of kids that are graduating college. You probably wrote your last check within the past couple of months. You probably can stand up a little straighter today than you could the other day or the day before or the year before, right? Those who want to carry the torch on to pay for graduate studies, whether it's an MBA or a JD or a medical degree, that's on you. We done. We out. That's that.
Sounds like we're talking from experience.
From experience, in 2 weeks it'll all be over.
Well, good for you. I'm standing with the people who still owe even after they graduated.
Look, when he walks down the aisle, I'm gonna have the crime scene yellow tape. Just tape it off. We out. That's it.
Well, congratulations to you all doing a fine job, and your son graduating from one of the finest institutions in the country. So proud moment indeed, and congratulations to the young Mr. Russell. So we also want to recognize all of those who have given service to our country and still protect our freedoms. As Memorial Day, I hope you took time to just be grateful and acknowledge those maybe in your own family or in community who have served. So just wanted to underscore that before we jump into recognizing someone who made history as well. When we talk about the first Black woman to practice law in North Carolina. And she is being honored. She's a graduate of Fordham University.
Can you say that school again? Can you say that school one more time?
Fordham University.
Somebody on this show went to that school. You know what I mean?
Somebody. I wonder who.
You know?
I wonder who is
That's
the proud
right.
graduate. But Ruth Whaley's legacy is something to definitely celebrate as a Black woman and the first Black woman to practice law in North Carolina. So that's major. And here's a picture of her.
You know,
And
what's interesting, about her story is, obviously she's the first, right? But to go back to North Carolina was just one of those things that, like, hey, look, let me just show you a little something. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to keep me out. I have a thriving practice. I'm moving professionally in New York City. I am head of and commissioning and doing all the things that I could ever do here in the North, as they say, because the North is much more progressive, at least at that time, right? And now I'm gonna come back just to dot the I and cross the T, and that says a lot. That says a whole lot.
And one of the things that I found really beautiful about this story is that it states that her husband was the one who encouraged her to obtain a law degree. She had attended Livingston College down there in that I believe in Salisbury, North Carolina. She graduates in 1919. Now think about it. We're talking about early in the century when, right now we talk about the oppression of women. Imagine back then, no woman was expected to even go to college. Women weren't expected to engage in any professional endeavors. They were expected to be home.
And then you put black on top of that.
Yeah, but especially a Black woman. And here's this Black woman has this courage to say, you know what? I'm in Jim Crow, North Carolina. I want to study law. You know what? I'm gonna head up to the big city up there, and I'm gonna go to Fordham University. And keep in mind, she was also the first Black woman admitted at that time to Fordham University.
That's right, Fordham University itself.
Yeah, so we're talking about this pioneering shero who decides to leave Jim Crow South, has that sort of moxie, and says, I'm going to go up north. I'm going to be the first at this school. I'm going to graduate from this law school. You can just imagine. And then goes ahead and becomes an expert at civil service law, which I know civil service law. It's complicated. It's not easy. And becomes head of the Board of Estimate, which is at that time, my understanding is what's considered, I think now, the city council, if you will, in terms of the seat of New York City government. Like Royce says, has this thriving practice, and then says, oh, she's also the first pres of the New York City National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women, was also the president of the National Council of Negro Women. I'm sure you've heard about that organization, which was one of the most pivotal organizations behind the civil rights movement. We're talking 1920s, because she graduated from Fordham in 21, passes the bar and starts practicing in 25. No, she's admitted to Fordham in 21.
Admitted in 21, she
graduates in 24, admitted in 25. So then, like Roy said, she goes back to the South. Now, she never gets to practice down there because, them folks down there didn't let her. But by that time, she was like, you know what? I'm just going to become a member of the bar here to let it be known that there's a sister here admitted to the bar in this North Carolina Jim Crow state and is not being allowed to practice.
And now let me add something to what you said, right? And this is something that you guys wouldn't know because, no shame, you ain't graduate from Fordham University. You know what I mean? As they say, yo ain't graduate from Fordham University. Not you did not. Yo ain't graduate from Fordham University. But here's a little small nugget to say, to really illustrate and highlight how difficult it was. Fordham University is a Jesuit institution. If you know anything about religion and you know anything about the Jesuits, you're talking the highest of strictness, of ordinance. It's almost like the military of religions, right? When people hear that you went to a Jesuit institution, they know you have discipline. They know that you got up at and I'm exaggerating that, 4 a.m. and you milked the cow, you went and got the eggs. It's just this high. And look, and I'm exaggerating, but people to this day, when they hear you've gone to Jesuit institutions, there's not that many of them. There's not that many of them.
Yeah, I went to one
Yeah.
as well.
Huh? Say that again.
I went to Marquette University Law
Right. So
School, which was
Marquette,
also
right.
Jesuit, very
So
conservative.
when you hear of that at BC, you know, when you hear of the Jesuit institution, there's a certain bell. And I don't say that to prop it up, but every college or colleges have their niches, right? You got the Army, you got the Navy, you know, that's their little niche. You have the Jesuits, you have the Ivy Leagues, you have the Sunnis, you have the very Christian schools, right? Like a St. John's, you know, like Binghamton and the Sunnis. You have those niches, and it means something. It means a lot. Like it almost means more than a law degree. If I tell someone, yeah, I went to Fordham University, let alone I went to Fordham Prep, they're like, oh, like really? Like you went through 8 years of the Jesuit training? You know, it almost gives me the disguise that I'm not African American. It's like you different, bro. You different. We're gonna use come on in. So, you know, sight. But that's the truth to it.
Oh.
And I say all that to say that to be a woman, to be the first, you know, at Fordham University, first North Carolina, and have to go through the Jesuit system, and at a time where you're talking, you know, the inability to vote, to stand up, to do a whole bunch of other things, you know, it's some crazy times. We got it real easy compared to that.
Absolutely. And we shout out other members of the Divine Nine when there are accomplishments like this. And she is a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. And this is their centennial year. So shout out to them. And she was vice president of the National Council of Negro Women. So definitely one for us to be proud of for the culture. And this is where the legal meets the cultural. So we wanted to just share that. And of course, this is a show where we have legal experts. So all fitting in how we recognize her today.
But let's take a moment and look at the brother's splendor, double-breasted,
Oh, I knew you were
tie scenario that he got going on there, right? See, on this show, folks don't really know how we get down, right? They just see what they see. They see from the head, the neck up. They don't really see the rest. And my man got it. Like,
of course, you would catch the fashion because
hey, look,
the other part of your world.
When he flip you a quarter, you best to believe it's shiny. It ain't a dull one, that's for sure.
And I do appreciate that, you know, it was her husband that encouraged her to go on and to go to law school and make history. But on to more tragic news, unfortunately, as this story continues to unfold, our hearts and prayers go out to the families affected in Uvalde and the kids who are survivors and watch this unfold, the teachers. There's so much trauma after seeing this. It's on the heels of the horrific incident in Buffalo, New York, and the murders of those individuals. So our country is going through a lot. And this just broke about an hour ago. And I'm going to play it live for our legal experts to react to.
Morning. One big thing that has come into question is security at the elementary school. Police originally said that the gunman got in through a back door that had been propped open by a teacher, but now they're saying something different, and this is not the first inconsistency we've seen in this case. What's going on?
Yeah, that's right. It seems that we get a lot new information each time we hear these spokespeople representing Texas DPS talk to us. The latest is that this teacher who was said to have propped open a door, apparently she was bringing food back and forth from her car into her classroom. Remember, this was a day of a lot of celebrations at Robb Elementary. They just had an honor roll ceremony. It was almost the end of the year. The story at first had been she had propped the door open, and that's how the gunman got into the school without anyone stopping him. At first, we thought there was a school resource officer. That person apparently was not even at the scene. But we'd always heard that that door was propped open. Well, yesterday, her lawyer said, no, she saw the gunman approaching, ran inside, and slammed the door shut. And that typically when you close the doors, they automatically lock. That is the security system at this school. Now, though, we're hearing from the Texas police that she did not. Yes, she closed the door, but it did not lock. So more details coming out here. This teacher has not been identified. Of course, she wants to keep her privacy because people would be angry that she had left this door open if the gunman was coming. So she's protecting her privacy, speaking out through a lawyer. It's a really tense situation just about this door, whether it was propped open and whether it actually locked when she pulled it closed. Of course, if it did not lock, that would be a problem with the way the school is supposed to be secured.
And Julia, we know
You
that
can stop it right there. Please stop it right there.
Okay. All right. Hold on. We'll pause it.
Because I mean, that's the chunk of what we want to speak to, right? So we're going to talk cultural and legal, right? So I'll start with the legal, Ed, and you chime in whenever you want to, and we'll mix it on up in here because there's a couple of things that I see here. First off, you know, we hear this term from a cultural standpoint, and we hear it from an artistic standpoint, a life standpoint. And what do they always say when something goes down, especially something criminal? They say, lawyer up. Lawyer up. Now, a lot of people think and see that term as a bad term, lawyer up, as if you hiding something, as if, you know, a lawyer is going to allow you to get away with some criminality, or is going to, you know, put a blanket over the truth. No. Lawyer up means have someone speak for you, have someone to speak to give you an understanding that words have power. And that if you say something and you misspeak, and we see that all the time in text, right? You text someone and people, oh, I thought you said, I thought you meant, you know, words mean everything. So if you say something and it's out there in the world, it is tremendously hard to retract it and bring it back. Or to say, well, I didn't really mean, when I meant spot, I meant meet me at the, you know, at the restaurant, not spot, drug spot, right? I mean, interpretation is from the person that is reading it or hearing it. And that interpretation is guided by the narrative that they have in their brain. So you need to lawyer up and be quiet. Why do I say that? It's because this statement, the facts or supposed facts, the statements that are running around in the media, does a variety of things. One, the most obvious but not talked about, it gives the NRA a basis to say, hey, look, we don't have to do anything with the gun laws. If the door wasn't propped open, if the door worked properly, this would not have happened. It doesn't seem like a strong argument, but when you start piecing together arguments over arguments, we already know that NRA has a stronghold on a lot of politics in the world. And a lot of people that are NRAers, they must have influence in the world, because no matter how many people die in this world by gun violence, mass shootings, the law rarely changes. Only criterias. And very, very little criteria, because this Second Amendment is so powerful and people need it and people want it and they need to exercise it. And we could talk about why, right? But when you start laying down stories and start speaking to stories, now you're creating narratives for other people to use. One. Two, lawyer up. Story comes out, you prop the door open. Now, in my personal opinion, the first thing that comes out of people's mouth is usually the truth. Really, you know, whatever happened, before anything else, like, where were you? I was over here. Oh, really? You was over there? No, I was over there. You know, the second answer is like, yeah, right? So any second answer that we get here, people are looking at it with the eyebrow raised. You probably were going back and forth. You probably did bring food in. And you probably left the door open, because that's vastly different than I saw the gunman. Peep what I'm saying, because that also slid out too. I saw the gunman and I slammed the door. Why are you saying you saw the gunman? Did you really see the gunman? Or are you saying, hey, I saw the gunman and I try to protect the students, and when I slammed the door didn't lock, so it's really not on me because I saw the gunman and I try to close the door, and if the door would have locked, then we'd have all been safe. So that's really on the school. So sue the school.
Well, and I think you're speaking to the very many vested legal interests that we have here at play. We got a school that, from an article I read, I believe it was yesterday, earlier today, has decided to stop cooperating with the quote unquote investigation because it already sees that the blame is starting to spread like mustard right now. You got this story about this teacher propping this door open. Now it's that it was at one point open, but as soon as she saw the gunman, she slammed it closed. And now, the door lock didn't lock. Do we have product liability here? The designer of the door.
That's right.
Is the door properly maintained? Let's
Hey,
blame the
hey,
manufacturer of the door.
Let me just say one thing. You continue. I just want to make sure our audience understand this. Ed talked about, do we have product liability here? Did the lock not work? The reason why that's important when we talk about the legal minds here is that if you can go and sue the manufacturer, which probably has deeper pockets, has more money than the school and the district itself, the taxpayers will eventually be paying this money if you sue the school or you sue the district or you sue the town. Let's go after corporate America. And so, this is how you start to weave the narrative. And now the NRA, they blowing smoke. They out of the picture. They put the car in reverse. They're in another parking lot. Let y'all talk over there.
And speaking of the NRA, right now, their whole panorama and narrative that they've been trying to paint is really getting blown to bits because they're as recent, I think, as even this morning, I heard, the teachers union in that school district saying, no, we're not with this idea of arming teachers and having the teacher be the one who's exchanging shots with the gunman coming into the classroom. We got enough stuff to worry about. God forbid we shoot one of our own students by mistake. You got this situation where, quote unquote, because I don't know if many people realize this, and I was surprised to learn this myself. Apparently, these school districts in Texas each have their own school district police department with its own chief. So in the case of Uvalde, this police chief named Arredondo, who Spanish surname, but I'm not sure how Latino he may be, who knows, is now being sworn in, I guess, as a city council person or a member of the city council in the city. And I said, well, chief, is he chief of the Uvalde Police Department? And then I learned, no, he's chief of the school district police department. And apparently he's the one who is being blamed for giving the order to have these officers stand there or lay in wait for, I guess, a half hour while the gunman was in the classroom as an active shooter, waiting for the border patrol to come in, even though he and his department received tactical active shooter training. So there's a negligence question there in terms of what the police were doing and them waiting and it's an absolute mess here.
And then you could add on to that. Now he sits in a different position where he may decide whether liability is even at fault and how much money is going to come out of the town or come out of the county or come out of the district as to who's going to get paid.
What Royce is speaking to is, in many cases, these settlements by these municipalities have to be approved by the local governing body.
Yes. That's ridiculous. And getting back to the narratives or the misinformation and the miseducation, right? When lawyers get involved, the truth will come out, because if she did see the gunman, and close the door, was she the first one to make a phone call, or did she make no phone call whatsoever? Now, check that out. You see a gunman coming, you close the door, and you don't make a call yourself, you don't do anything. I don't know if that's true or not, but this is where the facts will start, you start peeling back
So
No, but what about the part of the story where apparently he crashed the car before going in? And if you got this school district police department and you're supposed to have someone out, they just mentioned something about a school resource. Was that person supposed to be there at the entrance? I mean, who knows?
I think it wasn't even found.
So let's pause for a moment because John made a comment about, all investigators, news, police, MTA, our practice of the art of building a mountain from a molehill. So we must be careful of our interpretation of the story. So let's pause and go back to listening to the rest of this news. We paused it in between. There's about 2 more minutes left. Let's see what else they have to say.
School district's police chief has come under fire for his response to the shooting. It's understood that he incorrectly believed the gunman was barricaded in the building and ordered officers to remain outside during the shooting. And we've heard those chilling stories from parents pleading with officers to go inside. And after more than an hour, federal agents reportedly then disobeyed that chief's orders and entered the school and then shot the gunman. So given all of this, where do things stand with this police chief right now?
Yeah, that's right. We keep hearing that Chief Arredondo, he's the head of a police force of just 6 that oversee the Uvalde School District. He was the chief, and he's the one who was the commander of that day, who said there's a barricaded situation, although there are a lot of questions because there were 911 calls coming from the children, and they could obviously hear shots and screaming inside these classrooms. He had decided that there was no more of a threat to life. That's the call you would make when you decide that it's a barricaded subject rather than an active shooter. He is the key person. I think everyone in the media and anyone investigating this incident wants to talk to. Why did he make that call, given the information that he had, and what information did he have that led to that call? He at first was cooperating with investigators. Now we're being told that the Texas police overseeing this investigation have not heard from him in the past 2 days, and they did ask him for a follow-up interview. We should also add the Justice Department will likely want to talk to him as well, because we learned over the weekend they will also be conducting a review into this incident.
And so let's dig into that review. What are the next steps into this investigation, and when can we expect more from the Justice Department?
Right, so this is called a critical incident review. It has happened before, after shootings. It's really looking forward. It's trying to prevent another tragedy like this from happening, and getting best practices out to law enforcement over what they should do in a situation like this. It's not as much looking backwards and holding people accountable, although they will be conducting interviews. As far as the timeline, I'm hearing perhaps a couple of months. It's not something we could see turned around next week. This might not be the place where we get the immediate answers that we're looking for. Those might be more likely to come from the state level, but it should be able to dig into some of these key details on a very thorough level. That at least is what we're being promised from the Justice Department.
So it's like 1 more second left there. So, this is very difficult to continue to just think about the parents. I think one parent was laying flowers for the mother that transitioned, and then he died of a heart attack.
I heard about that.
This is just unbelievable. I mean, they were literally at the school for celebrating all of the accomplishments of the kids, kiss kids goodbye to come back and pick them up. And this is happening. But from the legal standpoint, thank you for explaining some of those steps. We see what the correspondent was sharing as well.
Dr. Grant, can you go back to John's statement? I want to make sure that I absorb it correctly. All investigators, news, police, MTA investigators are practice at the art of building a mountain from a molehill. So we must be careful of our interpretation of the story. I'm trying to get underneath maybe the substance of the statement, because the story is, our interpretation is derived by what narrative the media brings to the forefront, right? And that's how we go into in getting our information of what did or did not happen, unless we do our own research. But what we do know is that we got 3 different stories so far, right?
And if I may,
right?
And if I may, I think the perspective is coming from the perspective of a number of civil servants being involved in this incident, and us looking at the choices that were made and the behavior that they engaged in. And whether or not, higher ups are and investigators are looking to take this in one direction or another instead of just searching for the truth here.
Well, I mean, look.
And I think that all we've simply done is not necessarily try to interpret the story, but simply to lay bare a lot of the issues that are at play here and asking folks to look at the incident from that lens, because at the end of the day, there's going to be an investigation. The question is whether the truth is going to really come out, or whether some version of the truth comes out that sanitizes or cleans up certain people's actions. All of this remains to be seen.
And what I can tell you from dealing with wrongful deaths, the truth is guided by money. Don't get it mistaken. Like, I don't know what we digging down on. What we're going to dig down on is money. Then nobody's out here for veracity. Ain't nobody out here for the truth, right? The truth always gets buried in America, or else there would be reparations. The lawsuit that's going to come out of this. You think the truth is coming out of what really happened?
And what's amazing here is that I want to point out, apparently this city is a city outside or south of, I believe, San Antonio, Texas. And it's majority Latino. I think the numbers may be upwards of 60, 70%. I'm hoping that the fact that most of those children were had something to do with this delayed response, and I just hope not. I just really don't.
Brother from another legal mother, culturally we've been around town. Culturally, we've been around town. If this is the first, this might be the first, because we're progressive and we're moving and time is moving on, that everybody get a fair shake as to the investigation, as to the resolution, as to the truth. But we all know, and we did the Tulsa, Oklahoma, fire and bombing way back when. We can bring it all the way up to now. That really doesn't happen in communities of color. There's always some type of, we're going to brush this off and move this on, right? We're going to somehow not give it its just air. And that's why this mass movement, and here's a legal tidbit for those who don't know and who's not in the legal community, is that there's a movement to have attorneys of color start to manage these massive tort incidents. Because what will happen is that these folks will go to literally, and I'm using the term white collar firm, and their lives and the sympathy and what they want to get out of it will be in the hands of that firm. And there's a need for people of color to participate in massive torts actions to guide and make sure that we not played to the left or played to the right in reference to how this is resolved.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for sharing that, so that there's some acknowledgement on what's, not equitable, and not only black and white, but us and them. Thank you, John, for your commentary as always, and those who are watching live or hashtag catching the replay. So we're going to watch this. We're going to continue to pray for these families and the whole community, because there's just no way that you can really digest when these sorts of tragedies hit the news. It just seems unthinkable that it would happen, but here we are again. So more to discuss, and ironic that the NRA was meeting in Houston this past weekend. So now we have a prediction that's happening. This was released yesterday, that this attorney predicts that the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, will lose his job. What say you on this whole situation and case with the lawsuit between the former Las Vegas Raiders head coach, John Gruden, and the NFL?
Yeah, well, one of the things that's made the news in the last couple of days is that, if you recall, and we talked about this previously on the show, John Gruden was the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. A series of emails came out where he was making statements that were in writing that were considered racially insensitive to the that were no question about it. Just downright racist, sexual, whatever you want to call it, all of an attack on all of the protected classes, if you will. And after that came out in the news, he ended up resigning. Okay, he resigned. Later on, he decides he's going to sue the NFL to try to get his job back by claiming that the release of the emails into the public domain was something that was orchestrated to force his quote unquote removal, really resignation. And so he files this lawsuit in court.
And Ed, you know how crazy that is. Nobody was even paying attention to Gruden in Las Vegas. It wasn't like they were on the eve of winning the Super Bowl and they won 5 Super Bowls and you want to get, nobody was even thinking about him. And what is so preposterous is that his investigation happened by happenstance. Remember, the litigation was about sexual assault and the misuse and abuse of authority when it came down to women employees at the Washington Redskins or Commanders or whatever. And they ran across these emails that led to something else. So a conspiracy has to be contrived. Like, you don't happen stands onto a conspiracy. I gotta say, yo, Ed, meet me at the spot. That's why it's conspiracy, like minds, right?
Well, so the NFL's response is that his forum for relief was arbitration, because apparently it's either, because I never really read the complaint in this case, but apparently in terms of my familiarity with this area, they were either claiming that he didn't exhaust his remedies under the arbitration machinery that exists in the NFL, meaning that, listen, if I lose my job, in danger of losing my job, or I'm fired, I get to go to arbitration and have an arbitrator decide whether or not that should be the case. And John Gruden didn't do that.
That's for any litigation in the NFL. That's for any litigation. It's similar to the financial industry. You know, you're suing brokers. You have FINRA, the Financial Institute for Dispute Resolution. It has to be resolved by arbitration. So this is not something new.
And I'm not saying it's anything new. I'm just saying that the NFL says, arbitration is what compels here. Court doesn't have jurisdiction, should not be hearing this case. Court decides otherwise. Says no. Well, he's not compelled to go through arbitration, and also denies the NFL's motion to dismiss. So now the NFL is planning, according to reports, to appeal this decision. It was a Nevada judge named Nancy Alf that ruled against the NFL in their attempt to compel arbitration here. So, we're going to have to stay tuned. I'm really, I gotta read that decision, because I find it kind of, I'm just a little perplexed how an individual who resigns is able to turn around and now, file this type of lawsuit and move forward.
The judge has yet to be touched.
The whole idea of somebody forced a sophisticated, relatively wealthy, man with means to resign. I mean, you got lawyers, you got money, you got people advising you, and you're going to claim that you were forced to resign. But I guess he's claiming that the leaking was nefarious. The real question: did you say what did you write those emails? Let's talk about that.
Once again, the 3-card Molly, right? You know what I mean? We're not going to focus on what was said. We're going to focus on how it got out as to what was said.
He claims that they harmed his reputation by releasing those emails.
No shit. I mean, the reality is whether it's true or not. And on top of this, I predict that it is going to be overturned, right? Because these type of organizations, whether it's FINRA, whether it is the NFL, they have these clauses. These clauses have been around. There's nothing unfair. You still get your due process. It's things of that nature. And then I also believe in that, just certain people haven't been touched yet. Like, does the judge really know the NFL? Like,
well, he may, in fairness to him and the judge, he may be claiming futility in terms of the pursuit of arbitration at this point.
Oh yeah, I mean that's an argument. That's a
usual argument.
Yeah.
Well, explain that to the audience.
Well, if you're able to show that the reason that you didn't do a complete exhaustion of your remedies is because an exhaustion would be futile, that's a legal defense to that exhaustion of remedies claim.
You're just making me spend money to spend money because the end result is already written on the wall. Like, nothing's going to happen here. What they say, exercise and futility, right? That's the word that we usually hear, right? You exercising, but yet you ordering, McDonald's by Uber Eats, right? It's just like, what are you doing? It's
why are you making me do all that?
Right.
You know what the outcome is going to be.
Exactly. So with that being said, this is what's happening. But once again, I'm going to dig a little deeper, right? This is happening. And you know who's watching, right? You know Brother Flores is watching this, right?
Watching.
Brian Flores is suing the NFL for discrimination and the fraud Rooney Rule and reference to hiring practices. And their attorneys is trying to have this case heard in court, not by arbitration, not by secrecy, not by in this room with no media, no public access. That's what they're fighting for. So they're hanging on this judge's every word in this decision to say, this is precedent. And what this means is that, to all those who are not lawyers, this is a case of first impression that we need to follow, right? The judge ruled in this way on this case, and that supports our argument. And because without that, they didn't have any other cases to really rely on within the NFL arena, maybe in some other arenas, but within the NFL to say, judge, it's okay to do this. And so they're moving forward in that.
And that's what that kind of is alluding to, that headline, because Roger Goodell, as the NFL commissioner, is taking a lot of hits.
Interesting.
Taking a lot of hits. They should play with the image here and have him with like a black eye.
Well, that's what I was just
nose and stuff.
I was just
possibly
about to say,
a missing tooth.
And he's taking hits and he don't have any equipment on. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, the concussion protocol that's happening to him is amazing. I mean, like, it's like over and beyond, right?
Remember that video game back in the day and that first fight of Glass Joe?
Oh yeah.
Can you get hit?
Yeah, you know what? I take it even further than that. My man is playing Rock'em Sock'em. His head is about to go up with the
Lord,
and go straight up. Well, he is getting close and keep on throwing the jabs real hard and real fast.
Okay, moving right along. Oh my goodness, we have yet one more story. You all are on one today. We have yet another lawsuit filed.
No, those are appropriate words for the next story right here. Watch yourself.
Body blow.
You know what I mean? But bing, where's the drums? Ding, ding, ding,
oh Lord! All right. There you go. So this story, Rustin Hardin issues scathing response to latest lawsuit filed against Deshaun Watson. What say you?
So let me lead off, Ed, on this one, right?
No, this story is actually outdated.
Well, I mean, the headline might be outdated, but we know what happened, right?
There was a 24th lawsuit, is what I mean.
Right? No. I mean, we're gonna alert
eggs, baby.
No. Dr. Grant put it up here because it's a better looking article than the article that speaks to the 24. That's what you gotta let the producer do the producing now.
I wasn't commenting negatively. Please forgive me. I just wanted to
easy. She's driving the car. You putting the brakes down on the passenger side, bro.
Rolanda, pray for me.
Get out. Get
You
out.
know what I mean? You know what I mean? I don't know why you moving, she driving. You know what I mean? Every time she touch it, you touch. You know what I mean? She put her foot down, you put your foot down. You know? But Ed is correct. There's a 24th victim, right, in this case. And I would say to this, and you've heard me before talk about the conspiracy and how the lawyer lives not too
conspiracy.
right, lives not too far from the owner, and it only comes out at the time that he asks for a trade, and how the Houston Texans was just like not really about social justice, and we can go on and on and on. But you know, a guy like me, you know, I know that the light is not a light of a rescue. It's a train getting ready to run me over, because now you got 24 people. Now, as a defense counsel, and I'm representing you as quote unquote the defendant, you robbed 16 people. Look, I could probably do a good job in getting the jury to think that maybe 3 or 4 of them is fugazi. It really didn't happen. But when we get to the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's just at 16. My man's at 24. That's a problem. That's
but the one thing that does contribute to the conspiracy theory is the fact that all these women are apparently represented by one attorney, a gentleman by the name of Tony Busby.
Yes and no, Ed. I'll let you run with it, but I'll flip on the other side. You know it's yes and no.
And in defense of Brother Watson, if you recall, he did survive a grand jury proceeding on these matters, which is what allowed him to move forward and along to the Browns. Because remember, they were waiting to see what the outcome of the grand jury proceeding was going to be.
Well, now here I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you with the crazy body blow. So take this. Go get your helmet. Go put your strap on your glasses, because I don't want it to go crooked. Right? Person dies wrongful death by the police. No criminal charges. Wrongful death still happened. Don't tell me that because they didn't go after the police that my case is weakened.
No, I didn't say that.
I'm not asking. No, I'm putting it out there to the world. I'm just putting it out to the world. So I ain't going for that smoking screen. Now, smoking screen number 2. Burden in the criminal case is beyond proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
That's right.
Proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Civil case, preponderance of the evidence. Totally different. Totally different. Right? So there are different levels of where I need to go. And we've talked about this off air, and this is the cultural part from a gender perspective, which you recognize, I recognize, and before Dr. Grant even tried to spank both of our hands for not even recognizing it, is that there is not even a phenomenon, is the reality of what it takes for a woman who's been victimized to even come forward. Right. And just because 23 other people came forward, that doesn't mean that, why didn't you come forward when they came forward? No, it don't work that way. You know what I mean? And then maybe the woman doesn't do massages anymore. Maybe she moved on with her life. Maybe she has a daughter that's 16, 17. You have different fact scenarios. It's just hard. Maybe there's something that was in her past. Every victim's not the same. So yeah, there could be people that's trickling along, that's coming out.
These women are sticking together,
right?
And they haven't dropped out. They haven't sought independent.
They stayed. They've told the line.
Lawyers, they've hung in there.
They're told the line. They're told the line.
This happened to me.
And on top of this, Ed, and you take it as a practitioner, and this is the cultural part, right? And this is the legal part. In some of the small litigations we have, because of people's personal economics, social economic situation, they want things over before they even start. Mm-hmm. They want the case settled before you even file a complaint. And none of that has happened here. Or if it has happened, it's been kept in-house. Now, to the credit of the lawyer that is doing this, I don't know anything about him. I'm not going to give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But what I will say, in the industry, and I'll go back to the massive tort type of conversation, if someone is willing to take on the challenge when nobody was ready to walk the walk, they should get all the credit of everybody else that comes through. Now, people in our communities be getting their heads beat down upside and backwards by police all day and all night. And there are certain people that never touched these type of cases. Then all of a sudden it became the thing to do. And now you got all type of people filing lawsuits, false arrest, police brutality, wrongful death that have never even stepped foot in our community. Can't even tell a narrative if they saw it right in front of them. It was probably the one that raised their hand and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe a cab would pass somebody that's African American by. I'd never seen that." And now all of a sudden they're on the bandwagon. So there's something to be said for, first one on first base should get all the stuff that comes to him, right? As they say, Jack, where's his jacket, right? That's it. That's how we go with that.
What I always say, and as you mentioned, victims being victimized again, going through all of this, but this is 24. And as you mentioned, I think both of you mentioned that everyone is sticking together. So it doesn't appear to be, even from a legal standpoint, that there's any fabrication. So this is interesting to see how this is going to play out and how the attorneys on both sides handle what we see in front of us. So it just hurts my heart, because anytime you have a victim, there's also just so many other layers to who gets victimized in the process because of an act that someone didn't show up in their best selves. So it's a cycle. It's a horrible cycle. I mean, this is where the legal meets the cultural. So we're always talking about the challenges that we see happening in our communities in different ways and in different areas. But it always makes my heart heavy to just see how all of the effects play out when there is an act that harms another individual. And hurt people hurt people.
That's right. That's right. Hurt people hurt people. Like I don't know if we got time, but you got two people that were trying to hurt each other in that courtroom, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And
yeah, right.
The jury just came down in that case, and apparently they found that Depp proved the 3 defamation claims he made, and did $10 million in compensation and $5 million in punitive that I believe was reduced down to $350,000. Now, Amber Heard had cross complaints as well, and 2 of her defamation claims were found to have been proved, but she only got $2 million in compensatory.
To me, it's like 2 rich people. They just throwing money at each other. Here, get out. You get out. Here, take this 5. Here, you take this 3. Get out of my life.
And this was a Virginia jury, by the way, in Virginia. So
and I will, I'm glad you highlighted it. Look how long this case took. Defamation lawsuits are not for the average person that's floating out here. It's not set up that way. And it is quite costly. And only lawyers will take that on if they know that there's something at the end of the day. They know that there's going to be a pot of gold there. And that's just the business side of practicing law. And there's nothing that we can really do about it, because every profession, there is a business side.
Yeah, and apparently, Depp was basically suing because he was saying that the claims that Amber Heard had made in the media prevented him from getting, I guess, a role with the Pirates of Caribbean franchise, which have made him very rich, apparently, in terms of the many movies he's played the main character in there. So, we talked about it, how you have to be able to show those damages, those actual damages in terms of what was said about you, what was put out there falsely about you. You can't just say, oh, he lied about me, but there was no effect there or damages. So.
It's interesting that you brought up how long it takes for these sorts of cases, because it requires a lot of money. And I don't know what the ratio of success is on a defamation case. Like, it seems like it's not only dragged out, it's costly, but how many people are committed to seeing it through the end? If they don't have the financial capacity, they know they're innocent or they were wrong, like, what do they do?
And from a business perspective, it makes it even more difficult, because you may want to take on a case, but you have to say to yourself, look, my hourly rate is X. Can you manage that? The person says no. All right, I would like to take this on contingency, but you never know what a jury is going to come back with, right? A lot of people have what they call legal victories, but don't have monetary victories. That means, yes, you were wrongfully terminated. We believe that. But you have a duty to mitigate. You found another job. The difference in pay between that job and the job that you lost is $3. So therefore, we times 3 times 12, you got $36. There you go. And that's that. It's not as simple as that, but it comes pretty close to that. And attorneys will shy away from that unless you have a big name. And we see the ones that have won these type of cases. I think it was Cardi B and someone else, these were big names. This is not, folks like you and I, although we have reputations and we're out here in the world bringing these type of lawsuits. So if you take that and do that across the board, as you said, the average person is not even going to go forward.
So Jose had a question. So a wife can sue a husband, or were they divorced?
My understanding is that they were divorced.
They were divorced.
Yeah.
So that was that. And there's some breaking news coming out that, and thank you, Jose and Rolanda. Thank you for praying for me. Hey, and John, thank you for tuning in. Sheryl Sandberg steps down from Meta at Facebook. So that's some breaking news that just hit after 14 years, the second in command over one of the largest social media interfaces that's stepping down. So interesting. I'm sure we'll hear more about that as well as we move on in the current days. I think she's saying it's another chapter that she is exploring in her world, but definitely someone who has been a part of this whole explosion that we've seen happen with social media and with so many people are living by in this meta universe, which is changing the way we even do business. So interesting. Don't know if we really have a lot of information around this whole universe and the legal implications, but that's to be seen, because people are creating whole new realities using this kind of avatar, and it's going to affect how things happen. Because I'm wondering, if you're doing business and something goes wrong, like, are there going to be special attorneys now needed for this new universe?
Without a question. Move over.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Open up the door. We're walking through. I mean, here we come. So.
You never know. It's a whole new. I feel like I'm embarking on living in the Jetsons life.
But if you think about it, right, you have generations and generations of attorneys coming out more and more, even doctors, right? And unfortunately, we live in a place that different illnesses occur. Right, there's the evolution. Things have to evolve. You need, what I mean, like the landscape of how you do business and marketing, evolve. So if everything was the same, gosh, saturation, you couldn't have any room for anyone. So
telemedicine for doctors,
right.
Practicing over Zoom and internet and Microsoft Teams and the like on platforms.
Right. You know how much studies are going to be done over COVID and the new generation of lawyers, of doctors coming in to research and the cure. I mean, it's a sad thing that happened in society, but it creates the opportunity. Same thing with marketing in the social media world.
I mean, listen, I graduated from law school in 95, right at that point where the legal research was transitioning to the bound book, to Westlaw, LexisNexis. And so when we were taking that legal research class, we had to do both. We had to learn both because, there wasn't a complete abandonment of the bound volume, but at the same time, everything started to be done, electronically, and you had to be up on it if you were going to, exhibit any level of competency.
And you see it right now. I know we're running out of time, but you see it right now with COVID and how it created this whole electronic filing of motions and doing things of that nature. You probably never file a motion by hand again in your life, right? It'll all be electronic, and that's how it is. Every now and then you walk in to drop something off to get it stamped if you super paranoid, but they may even look at you in the clerk's office like, bruh, really? You brought this down here? Like,
well, technology continues to be utilized when we have
COVID all over those papers.
Things have changed and very, very different. But it's a new world. We're never going to go back to what things were pre-COVID. Like, this is just a whole new era. Can you imagine all the kindergartners telling the story when they're our ages later on in life about living through this and witnessing all that happened, watching adults run around crazy trying to figure it out. And they're going to have their own narrative and story that comes with solutions and a new world order of how we do things. So interestingly enough,
did you guys see recently the last payphone was removed?
Oh yes, I did see that. Yes.
the last payphone. Oh
It was
my
removed
gosh.
from New York City. Yes.
I
So in
just
the
got
future,
beeped. I need to go to
Yeah,
the
my
payphone.
beeper. I kept my beeper for historical references. It was red, by the way.
wow. There we go. There
So
we
my
go.
sons were looking at it like, "What is that?" I
What
was like, "It's a
is that?
beeper." That's what I used to use to get my important messages from my friends. But
Mhm.
anyway, it's time to close our show once again. We thank you for tuning in. Once again, John, Rolanda, Jose, all those who are watching live, you catching the replay, #replay. Thank you for allowing us to just share a little legal commentary from our legal experts where the legal meets the cultural. Any final words, gentlemen?
Yes, I would be remiss if I didn't say rest in power to Jeff Gladney, NFL football player, played for the Arizona Cardinals, died in a car accident, and Master P's daughter, Tatiana Miller. You know what I mean? We want to say rest in peace with her. It is my understanding she suffered through, some drug abuse type of situation and mental health. Not that that was the cause of her death, but we just want to say rest in peace and rest in power to his family. Just because someone is notable doesn't mean that they don't live the everyday struggles in life that we have, when people are people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Our prayers go out. And Senor Pichardo?
I just want to say happy verano, happy summer. It's June 1st.
Yes,
Enjoy.
indeed. Stay safe, everyone. And see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.
No more.